Good evening, my dear friends. In a few days before, I was speaking to all of you with respect to the dual majority rule and the 3 months rule brought about by the SEBI, that is Securities and Exchange Board of India, with respect to appointment of directors and specifically with respect to appointment of independent directors. I was, remembering that there was a mistake in not mentioning about the dual majority rule coming into force from 14th November 2022, while other things have come from 1st January 2022. Subsequent to this short speech which I have shared with you, some of you would have probably heard, and there were some questions on the reappointment with respect to independent directors, why it should not be by dual majority and all. If you remember, I have clearly said that the SEBI LODR has used the language very clearly, narrowly and tightly to make a reference only to appointment and not for reappointment. So what does it mean? It means that reappointment, which is covered by reappointment is specifically covered under 149 subsection 10, which talks about the special resolution requirement for this thing. So SEBI cannot possibly introduce a regulation which overrides or which plays contradictory to what the company law requires. If you carefully notice, SEBI regulation dual majority 14th November 2022 talks only about appointment but not about reappointment or removal. That is because subsection 10 of 149 specifically talks only about appointment. When I explained this, some people have brought about the discussion on special law versus general law and all. See, SEBI regulations or subsidiary regulations under SEBI Act, they cannot be seen as overruling a substantive law like the Companies Act, because 149, if you take, that is also a special provision, which is the provision talking about independent directors. Like 149, you have regulation 25, and therefore you cannot say the substantive law, that is Company Act, providing for a special resolution for reappointment of independent directors, getting overruled by a dual majority theory prescribed under the regulation for the listed companies. Therefore, that is number one. However, you see the burden of using that interpretation. Now, in order to use that interpretation, you have to use one more interpretation, that reappointment includes, appointment includes reappointment. There are two heavy things which you have to overcome. First of all, you should sell your appointment includes reappointment theory. Unfortunately, SEBI has never intended that. SEBI has clearly said in the first sentence, appointment, reappointment, removal requires special resolution. In the second sentence, it talks only about appointment. If any person who writes the regulation has seen appointment, reappointment, removal, he would have very well said, for all the above, you can have dual majority. Number one. Number two, you see the second burden is, you have to also say this regulation will override the provisions of the Companies Act. So both things cannot work. That is why SEBI has carefully said appointment, whereas Companies Act talks only about special resolution requirement for reappointment. And they talk about reappointment, which means if appointment were to be same as reappointment, appointment includes reappointment, the language used in 149.10 specifically is only reappointment. Therefore, you cannot introduce that interpretation for the purpose of Companies Act in 149.10, because 149.10 is only on reappointment, nothing about appointment. There are two important clarifications I thought I will share with all of you so that we are able to get clarity of the provisions which has come into force from 14th November 2022. I would continue to say that with respect to reappointment, with respect to removal of independent director, special resolution is necessary, and appointment के लिए alone the dual majority relaxed provision will apply. Thank you very much for bearing with me, and if you have any further clarifications, suggestions, you can always subscribe to my video, as well as keep communicating, because not only you are communicating to me but also to the other people who are hearing from you, who are able to see your comments, and that will help creating a better understanding. And I can stand corrected if there are any issues. Thank you very much.